and I crashed alongside of my bike on my head. They heard my back snap. I was unconscious for like 5 minutes. I'll never go back. If I had that day back again, I would jump it the exact same way, because I would much rather be who I am today than I was the person before. I felt like I had a knife stabbing me in my back, and I actually thought I was laying on a big rock, because I was like, surely like this pain is coming from something, but I wasn't. Will anyone be interested in me because I'm not going to be useful? The biggest fear, or the only fear I had, isn't even a fear of mine now, because my biggest fear was having reached the lowest part of my life. I never accept the fact that I was depressed, but probably was. I was crying every day. I had a news article written up on me on my story yesterday about how inspiring and amazing. I was like, oh wow, really proud of myself. And then the next story was how I got in my eye from Jessie.
Okay.
So, hi guys, I am Christina Vithoulkas. 4.5 years ago, I had a motorbike accident where I paralysed myself at the T5 level, complete. So I have been a paraplegic for the last 4.5 years, and I'm in between South Australia and Melbourne at the time.
At the moment, yeah.
At the moment.
And newly birthdayed as well, is that
Yes.
right? Happy birthday!
As this goes out, exactly a week ago today, you celebrated your birthday. So hopefully you know how old you are now. 28?
28.
Okay.
I got it wrong. I've got dementia.
Okay,
Yeah,
28.
good job.
I know. Well, I always think it's interesting because with spinal cord injury and T's, I always find it interesting. I don't know, right, on a graph where it is.
What
like
are the three?
T5?
What are the three types of spines, Angus? Come on.
T
T's one of them.
T3?
No, that's the numbers. So it goes.
Oh, V.
So I'm like a T6, whatever. So pretty similar to Christina, but there's T, and then there's that lower than T is
The P.
no L for lumbar,
Lumbar?
and the up top, if it's up around your neck, is the what letter?
V.
Oh my
Vertebrae.
God, mate.
C.
C.
How?
C, of course. C4.
Oh, see.
What does a C stand for?
So it's great to have you here. It's in your neck.
Busted.
It's in your neck.
No, I know that you're T5, and I was like, oh, I wonder where that is on your body. And then you have a tattoo that says from here,
Yes.
which is just below your chest.
Because I feel like, well, after listening to you guys' podcast for a bit, I love that this podcast is all about, spreading that awareness and educating people. And I know with visual photos and stuff, like I knew if I did that, people would actually remember T5 is around the boob level. For
Yeah.
I was just hoping even like people seeing that, they would roughly remember that because I've got a visual to look at.
That's now going to be my guideline. Not your boobs,
Yeah.
but the tattoo from here.
Sure. Yes. We've just started this. Keep it together. It's interesting how people actually, because we live in the world, I couldn't care less where your break is. Like, I would never be like, wait, what level are you? Like, if people ask me when I played tennis, what happened to your opponent, why they're in a wheelchair, I go, shit, I got no idea. Because I just don't care. But it's funny how the able-bodied world really want to know that question.
Surely though, and Christina, because Dylan was born with his disability and you've acquired yours, surely you're interested in learning the difference though, right?
100%.
So when you saw me, you cared while I was in a wheelchair. You actually thought about it?
But when you mean just then?
Just like when, we know each other online. But,
4 years ago, though, I was very interested.
4 years ago, fair enough.
Very
Post-accident.
interested. Even as someone that's a paraplegic in a wheelchair, when you and Chantel got together, that was like basically when I started following you as well. Like I'm a paraplegic as well, and I was just like so fascinated with the relationship. And I'm being like, and I'm a paraplegic, and I know able-bodied people would be like afraid to ask certain things, and I'm like, I'm a paraplegic, and I'm still very interested in knowing how everything was working and going.
We actually did the relationship for you at the same time. That's fine.
I feel like we're past
And
it.
now we love each other. So yeah, thanks for setting us up.
But then like you're T6. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
I'm like, I've got a tumour that grew into like from T6 all the way to like T12. So I'm a bit weird.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like it's a bit different.
Yeah, it's sort of break of
yeah,
the spinal cord.
exactly
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's a bit different.
But it is funny because, I mean, there must be some
funny.
interest. No. It is interesting.
We're a
like,
joke to you.
I imagine, Christina, like in
Yeah.
those first time, you're like, what is the difference between T5 and T6?
Yeah.
Like on the spine, it's small, but what do
I
you
didn't know
have
what
more
it meant.
abdomen
It
work?
wasn't even. It was more so like, what does that mean? I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Like I knew my legs didn't work, and I knew I was paralyzed. I'm like, but what does that mean? I don't know anything beyond that. So it was like every aspect of it, I was asking questions and stuff like that.
And yeah, you're right. People walking down the street like you're not like, my T4's a bit sore today. Like, it's not really in the vernacular of what you're doing unless you study medicine or you have an accident.
And I think also it doesn't. I'm not that interested. It would just surprise me if you weren't interested. To know the subtle differences between the T's, the C's, and the L's.
But I'm genuinely not interested. I'm just being honest.
Okay.
There you go. It's pretty cool though. But everyone's different.
Yep.
Now we'll get into your accident and stuff in a minute. But one reason I love you online is you are sick. You love like cars, motorbikes. You ever had a big traumatic experience, which we'll get into in a sec. But let's talk pre-accident. Let's talk about your love of motorsport and how much it influences your life pre and post.
So pre-accident, I only got into it when I was 19, and I think I had my accident when I was 22, 23. So I only got into it for a few years, and I fully got obsessed with it. When I was up until I was 19, I remember I would envy. I don't envy people now, but before my injury, like I envied people that had a sport and a passion. I was just like, I wish I had something that I loved, because I know if I was passionate about something, I would give it 110%. But I had nothing that drove me. And then I got onto a motorbike and I was like, yeah, I'm getting my own. And like within a couple of weeks, bought my own motorbike, got into that. That didn't last very long. And then now same with the drifting scene. I'm building a drift car at the moment. First lap, straight away I was like, yep, this is it. Like I need something that makes me feel like I'm about to die. For some reason, it just makes me feel the most alive. And I just get really, really passionate about that feeling, and I just want to chase that adrenaline rush, I guess.
So in those 3 years of when you say you're on a motorbike, people are probably picturing you just cruising around the street on like a moped, but it's not that kind of
like
motorbike.
a cafe racer.
So you're motocross, is that right?
Motocross and FMX. So
talk us through that.
Motocross is racing around, I guess, not circuit, well, kind of like a dirt track with jumps in it, and then FMX is a metal ramp that you hit with a motorbike with a distance of, well, mine was 55 foot. The Nitro Circus boys, or that you might have seen, or Cross
Travis Pastrana.
Yeah, Travis, they do 75 foot. So I was 20 foot shorter. So I did that as well. And I felt like I had a bit to prove because I got into it at 19 and I had a lot of boys kind of commenting and like, not, I guess, bullying me in a sense, saying like, I was a bit of a showpo because I would take selfies with my motorbike. So I just felt like I was like, hey, like I'm just as passionate. Just because I've only just got into it, I can prove that I love this sport more than you. And I just like made sure I just went in hard and started racing and hitting ramps within like the first year.
But in 2018, a couple of years after, getting into the motocross and FMX world, you did have your accident. Can you take us through that day?
Yeah, so I was hitting a jump that I hadn't hit before, and I fell off. Like I knew, I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't hit this because I don't feel comfortable, but I'm just very stubborn and I have a 3 speed check rule and I'm just like, come on, you can do it. So once I'd done the 3rd speed check, I'm like, too bad, you have to hit it now. And I hit it. My feet actually came off the bike. I wasn't like holding them down, and I crashed alongside of my bike on my head, scorpion. My butt was seen to hit my head because the people that were witnessing it told me that. They heard my back snap. I was unconscious for like 5 minutes and, yeah, basically woke up on the ground.
So you landed on the bike and then got thrown off it? Or the bike
so I bounced with the bike and then jumped and landed on the side. Yeah.
So you got like double jumped off it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And the description of scorpion I got from a show called Ridiculousness, but that is, so your face or your head is on the ground and your whole body is turned around, so your legs kind of like a scorpion tail over the back, and
her bump hit her head, so it's pretty
So they heard the snap.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Was there anybody trained or medical staff on site? Because at those events, or if it's not even an event, then maybe someone might not know, but because the snap, were people more precautious?
To the extent of like a spinal injury, no, but everyone knew. We know in this industry how serious accidents can turn, and I had a mate holding my neck. Like they straight away knew, like, just got to be precautious, hold my neck, and he was holding my neck in position for the whole hour. I was waiting for the ambos to rock up. Within that time we realised that I was paralysed, but they just basically had to sit by my side and just make sure I was okay.
How are those 55 minutes between coming back to consciousness and the ambo getting there?
All I remember was I just wanted drugs. I never even had morphine.
Because you're in pain?
Yeah, I was in so much. I just kept saying, I just need the green whistle. I need the green whistle. Like I felt like I had a knife stabbing me in my back, and I actually thought I was laying on a big rock because I was like, surely like this pain is like coming from something, but I wasn't.
Do you kind of remember obviously you remember the pain, but do you remember the emotion of realizing that you said that you knew that you were paralyzed in some aspect? Do you remember the emotional journey for you through that?
It wasn't emotional because I was just so ready for it. I had a spinal injury a year before. and
Wait,
was-
whoa, what happened there?
Yeah, I had to compress my T6 in an accident and nearly paralyzed myself a year ago, which actually made me stop riding for a year. And I was like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't do it. Reached the lowest part of my life. I never accept the fact that I was depressed, but probably was. I was crying every day. And I was like, no, I need to get back into riding. Like I need to get my happiness back. That's what makes me happy. Got back on the bike. My dad actually had the conversation with me. Was like, what if you end up in a wheelchair? I'm like, I won't regret it. Like the most important thing to me was my happiness. Got back on, had the spinal injury, and I knew the risk. And I think at the time I had known of like Bruce Cook, who's a paraplegic that does backflips in a dirt bike, paralysed. And to me, I feel like unlike a lot of other people, when I thought of the injury, I didn't look at it as like, oh no, like shit, you've just got a bad car now. Like straight away, I was just like, that's fine. It's just a different car. I'm going to handle it. Like my life's not going to change. Like I knew it wouldn't change.
So this is where we need to discuss something, Christina. You had a spinal cord injury, then you had a back injury, I guess, and then you had a spinal cord injury. And then you still got back on the bike. Now, I know this happens a lot, right? Where people like, they kind of want to face their fear. Chris Blows, we're like, he goes out and surfs still after being attacked by a great white shark. We're like, why would you ever go out in the water again? But for some people, it's like, I don't want to have a fear, or I don't want to have something that's sort of like, over me my whole life. Was that for you, or you just loved it so much and you didn't hold a grudge against motocross that you just wanted to get back into it?
I'd like to say that, but it was really just a prove a point. Being told not to do something, and I was like, I can do it. It's not that I want to now, just because of the risk of falling over and breaking my arm is not worth it for me. So it was more so just I wanted to prove someone that told me, especially someone that was supposed to be an expert in the industry, to show him that I could do it. So he didn't say to other patients like, look, you can't do this again, because that's what I found in rehab was I found it very shocking that the professionals or the people that were supposed to know everything about a spinal cord injury were the first to tell you what you couldn't do. And I found that very disheartening, knowing that we were being limited straight away off the bat. Like,
it'd be easy if they just say, don't know.
yeah.
Rather than say no.
Yeah, then saying no.
Well, because they don't know,
And
but they think they know. But you go, don't think you can, but what do I know? I'm a doctor. Like I'm not a motocross expert.
Agree.
It's a really good way for any young doctors listening, or nurses, or anyone in the medical industry. Is like you assume, so you say no. It's like don't say it is an assumption, and I'm not sure. That's probably better. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't place those limitations.
I can remember the moments I had in rehab when a couple of people would have said that, like, oh, we don't know if you can drive a foot, like maybe we can find a solution, and just that hope. I was like, oh my God, like there might be a chance, but you hardly ever got that type of feeling.
How did the people, who were you with that day when you had the accident, and how did they react?
My sister was there, some friends.
How was she? What's her name?
Irene.
And is she a twin?
Yes, she's my twin.
Identical twin?
Yes, but we don't look at, but now she's just dyed her hair back to brown-ish, so we kind of look more alike
back
now.
on board.
But she had red hair for the last 6 years and we didn't look alike.
How did she go that day?
So she would admit this too, that the injury was more traumatic for her.
Yeah,
than it
talk
was
us through.
for
What
me.
do you mean? Why do you say that?
Just because she witnessed her own sister being paralysed. And I didn't actually accept this not accept it, I just wasn't aware of how much trauma it caused my family, because for me it was just like, I'm fine. I knew I'd be okay, and I am. But for her, I didn't really put it in perspective to realise that, yeah, that's right. If you see someone that you love injured, you are ready for the worst. And she was very, very traumatised and upsetting, and having to phone the parents and tell them the bad news and going through all those emotions where I didn't really consider those.
You've basically got a mirror in front of you most of the time. In your sister, how do you go with watching her live an able-bodied life that you once did?
Yeah, I love that, because a lot of people say, like, do you ever get jealous? And I live through it. Like, if I'm with her, I'm like, do this, do that, go on this thing, like, do this TikTok dance, because I can't do it. So as long as she does it, it's like I've learned to be able to appreciate a moment, even if I'm not participating directly. Seeing her do it for me, it's like, okay, at least you're not wasting that, the movements that you have, and you're appreciating your body and you can do it. When she doesn't do a TikTok dance I wanted to do, I'm like, oh God, I wish I could walk.
I follow you both on Instagram, and you're both ripped. And she carries you around and like helps you out. What does that mean to you having someone there that's kind of always got your back to make sure that you are included in everything?
I've seen a comment and I thought, oh my God, I didn't think of it like that, but it's true. Like, do you think you were born a twin for this reason?
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, oh my God, like it made me like feel emotional. Like, because that's what she is. She is like, without her, like I couldn't imagine a life without her. So having her do all that, I feel is just, I don't think anyone would be able to know what that feels like unless they're in the exact same position. And I'm very grateful. It means a lot to me.
I'm going to send those videos to Angus. He's never carried me like that.
Not like that.
In a waterfall?
Why haven't you carried me in a waterfall?
I'd love to go to the NT and carry you through a waterfall.
I'm going to wait for this video.
It's been my honour.
He's carried me on a fair few stairs.
I've done a couple of stairs. Yeah. I carried you through life a little bit of last year. Plenty of these interviews. What was your biggest fear once the official diagnosis had come through? So doctors have said you're paralysed T5, you're a paraplegic. What was your biggest fear in the moment?
Yeah.
And even still to today.
And then, has that changed today? Do you still have fear? Because like researching you, watching you online, you don't, it seems like you don't.
Yeah, I honestly, the biggest fear, or the only fear I had isn't even a fear of mine now, because my biggest fear was having kids. Because at the time I thought I was in a relationship where, someone really wanted to have like multiple, like 5 kids. And I don't know, at a time of my life where I thought a woman's purpose was to only have kids and be a stay-at-home wife. So I was very petrified on my shit. If I can't have kids, am I going to be any use, or will anyone be interested in me because I'm not going to be useful, I guess? And then once a couple of years went past, and now I'm 4.5 years on, I don't even want kids. So
could you have kids?
Yeah, I can. I can definitely have kids, but I just don't want kids. I just don't see that in my life.
You were riding motorbikes, now you're doing car drifting. How do you drift?
I am not drifting just yet.
But you're building a drift car. Talk us through
car.
drifting, and how do you drive a car if you can't use your feet? Yeah. Obviously I know, but I'm sure everyone else doesn't.
True question. So I have a Bluetooth satellite hand control that wraps around my hand, and the throttle is like a quad bike or like a lever. Yeah, so you just have one of those. The brake is mechanical, so it's connected to my brake, so that's just a lever underneath the steering wheel. With the drift car that I'm building a S13 with the LS1 in it, and it's going to be a 3-speed automatic. So I change gears, but auto meaning no clutch, and I will have the same system on my Ranger that I'm going to have in the drift car. That
does the clutch for you, because you can't use the clutch.
No, there's no clutch.
Okay.
It's just that's the throttle. The clutch. It's a 3-speed automatic gearbox, so I can change gears with no clutch.
Gotcha.
Okay, I got a good question about this. So my hand controls, old school guy, just a couple of poles on the pedal, you accelerate, brake, done.
Yeah.
I use Bluetooth headphones. Sometimes the Bluetooth cuts out. What happens if you're driving a car and the Bluetooth is accelerate and brake on your everyday car?
Just accelerate it.
So how do you brake then? It's attached as well?
That's a normal mechanical brake. The lever is like not welded.
Yeah, same as my brake.
Yeah.
But then you accelerate with your
thumb.
finger, and then you hold the brake in your hand as well. Same
No,
hand?
the brake's here. Throttle's on this hand.
Whoa! All right, but what do you hold on the wheel? What's on the wheel? What hands?
Spinning knob.
Yeah, but your hand. So you
your
accelerate.
hand, you could, because the lever has a back piece that I can lean up against, so like I can hold the steering wheel without having
and accelerate
while accelerating.
Yeah, I can
what
drink a Macca's drink and accelerate at the same. That's the
hang on.
the freedom.
That's
Dylan, you're
loose.
gonna come
That's
in.
petrifying.
You're going in my car because you're gonna.
I'll watch you drive off. I'm not in that. I'll get there.
I have so many paraplegics when I have issues with my hand controls, and they're like, "See, this is why you need a mechanical. That you wouldn't have this issue." I try to be polite. I am polite. I'm always polite. But in my head, I'm just like, shut up. Like the freedom this hand control
I see you drive and you bloody sing and stuff on TikTok. I'm like, drive, what are you doing? What if the Bluetooth cuts out?
It has before when I was pulled out in front of it, when I've overtaken a semi.
That's why the brake can't be Bluetooth, only the accelerator, because the brake must be mechanical to be able to brake.
So I've
couldn't stop.
I've literally had to pull in front of in between 2 semis and then pull off the road. Once.
Once.
Angus, no.
Hey Siri, activate airplane mode. No thanks.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was just like, what is Bluetooth cutting?
And it wasn't even the Bluetooth, it was the battery.
Batteries.
Flat. yeah.
And
A few things that could go wrong.
we'll clip this up on our socials, everyone. We'll do a little video of Christina using the hand control so everyone
Yeah.
can get a visualization of it.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
definitely.
check out our Instagram
Yeah.
at ListenABLE
It's
_
Dylan
podcast.
driving it into a curb.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to see you drive it.
As long as it's a Kia, I'm in.
That's right. Get the sponsor out. In an interview, Christina, in reference to sex, you said it's not the first. If it's not the first thing they ask me about, it's at least in the top 5. Now,
We've asked you 6 things before this.
at least 6 questions before. No, but I want to know: are you afraid, or are you cautious, or becoming aware that you don't want to be branded as that person who's with disability that's so openly talking about sex that becomes sort of the niche that people want to put you in? Like, how did you get to a point that people felt so comfortable coming up to you and talking about your sex life?
I think it's the opposite. I don't care. You can brand me as this. Like, I would love to be the example because I know I won't hold back and I will be the perfect example to talk about it and be open about it. I feel like if people can't ask other disabled people, they can be like, okay, let's go to Christina's page and we'll find out the answers that they're not willing to give. I love being open about it.
Hard journey for some disabled people, right? So when did you make the decision that you're going to be so open about sex, your personal care, going to the bathroom? Because you are open about that. Was that a conscious decision or just straight away?
Conscious, because when I was in rehab, I just remember, just like Angus, I remember like I was paralyzed. Everyone was looking at me like the paralyzed, the disabled person, and I'm sitting in my own head like I'm normal, like I'm able-bodied. I'm not like some like they just straight away like walked on eggshells around me, and I'm like, you can ask. I was just as curious as you were. So when I was in rehab, I was like, when they were telling me stuff about sex or bowels or anything, I was just so interested in learning it that I knew, I'm like, well, if I'm interested as an able-bodied in my head, I was like, everyone else would be just as interested. So I knew, I was like, I'm going to share this because it's going to be important for other people to learn if I found it interesting myself.
I will just add, not all, just I'm like you, pretty open.
Yeah.
Not all disabled people are the same, so you can't expect every person with disability. So what you said is right. You might ask them a disability question, they might know what to answer, but there are resources out there to maybe learn about disability more without having to hear it from the horse's mouth all the time.
And just in general as well. This doesn't have to be to disability. You shouldn't then use Christina, Dylan as an example of, but they are.
Yes.
That's because that's not the right way of getting to that question. But thanks for being so open. I have to bring it up because the first time that I ever came across you, Christina, was because I was researching Maya Dove, a previous guest on the podcast, and she had just come out on SBS, We Are Sexual Beings, and you were on the show. And I remember texting Dylan while I was watching, going, "This guy called Christina," and then Dylan's like, "Oh, I'm best friends with her cousin. Don't worry, I've got it. Like, I'll flick you the text."
That's exactly what, shout out to Penny Vithoulkas.
Hello,
Love you,
Penny.
Penny Morgan
Love you,
these
Penny.
days.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so as I was watching the show, I saw your story. And do you think people with disability need to have conversations? I guess I was wondering about being so open. Do you think that people with disability should have or could have conversations with their partners and at what stage about what they can't do, if that makes sense? Like, how did you, because you've got a new partner, you've had only since your accident, what date was that conversation that you felt comfortable in going,
Can't do this, can't do this.
can do this or can't do this? Like, are you curious about what we could be past this kiss at the front door? You know,
Actually, it's surprising because now that I'm thinking of it, I don't think me and Jessie have had this conversation. It was more so because I've had this conversation so many times to previous sexual partners and online. I was like, he watches my stuff. He watches my Q&As. So with him, I actually was the opposite. I actually didn't say anything. And it was more so because I was kind of like trying to test the waters and see what he would just do. And I guess he passed the test without me having to advise.
Pre your new partner, did you find that you're in a place of like vulnerability dating?
Yeah, so my insecurities were huge when I was single and I got onto Tinder for the first time because I remember just thinking like, I don't know, I had very low self-confidence in the dating world. And I remember having profile pictures of my wheelchair. Like I had 3 pictures and I remember I paid for the Tinder where you could see who likes you first because that's how insecure I was. I was like, I didn't have any confidence to swipe yes to anyone. I would only swipe yes to people that had already said yes to me. And then I remember like...
yes to you as well, not only just your profile, but you in a wheelchair. Like,
yeah. And I remember I'm getting all these like, yes. And I'm like, are they not seeing the wheelchair? Like, I think the wheelchair's camouflaged next to the table. They must think I'm sitting on a chair. And I literally changed my picture from me sitting at a table in case guys didn't see the wheelchair to a very visible wheelchair photo. And I'm like, oh no, the likes are still coming in. And then from there, I guess it just like snowballed. I just had to like go on a process of learning to love myself and accepting everything about me. And that's, I guess, what I'd advise with other disabled people is that owning everything that you are. I mean, you can do whatever you want. This is my advice. Owning everything that you are, because when someone comes along, they know exactly what is involved and what you come with, and that's who you want. You don't want to hide parts of yourself and then get with someone and, I guess, throw them off with some surprises.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I think it's disabled or not, authenticity is powerful and it's sexy and it's cool.
Yeah.
And you can see through bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
And like people gravitate and radiate towards people that are authentically them, and it's a journey for all of us, disability or not, but it's obviously pretty hard sometimes when you have a disability. Did you feel free once you were like, oh, that's it, I'm just going to be me fully?
Oh, proper. Like I the fact that I could just like talk, and I remember getting judgmental comments and like people like, oh my God, I can't believe you're saying that online. I'm like, but this is me. So I'm hoping, like even when I started dating Jessie, I was like, I hope I scare you off. Like, please, like any excuse for you to be scared off, that's good. That means you don't, want 100% me, because this is who I am.
Yeah, as early as possible as well.
Yeah, I was trying to scare him off.
I was scared.
I was like, I got with him and I said something about one of our sexual experiences straight away. I'm like, if this scares him off, well, better do it now than later.
Yeah, better not find out 2 years down the track.
Yeah.
Also, from a disability point of view, you talk about phantom sensations. Now, we know about phantom pain. We've spoken to many guests that have maybe been amputees, and they speak about, nerve damage or pain in legs that don't exist.
Feeling their toes or whatever.
Yeah. For you, in this same conversation, what are the phantom sensations that contribute to, it says here, pleasure?
Yeah, so actually I feel like it was the closest I've ever felt to an organ. And I remember this specifically when I was with Jessie, because I remember having this phantom feeling of nearly having an orgasm and knowing, when you have like, you come across a smell or you smell, like you eat something and it takes you back to your childhood. You have a memory that is unlocked. That's what happened with Jessie. And I was like, I know I haven't felt this in 4.5 years. And it was the closest to an orgasm I got, because I was so mentally aroused. And I feel like everything is mental, especially with the disability. Phantom feelings I get, it's all in the head. So as long as I'm focusing on that, that's what I feel. Like if I see you stub your toe, my toe starts hurting just because I've witnessed you do that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Jesse's going to clip that up, put it on his LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. We'll make you a collaborator on that post, Jesse, just so you can share that one on your Instagram.
That's some good stuff.
Bowl of uncomfortable time. Christina, this is where
Yep.
we ask a question from our audience, for the most part, sometimes from us. So this one was sent through after somebody found out that you were going to be on the show. This is nice. What's the one lesson you learned from acquiring your disability that has nothing to do with your disability? And then it goes on with a personal example. My example, you learn the true value of friendship and who your true friends are.
Everything is in your head. Everything. Like you can decide what type of life you want. And I remember saying to myself when everyone was upset and like looked at me like something horribly went wrong. And I remember thinking in my head, I'm like, you can just change it. You can change the script and make it whatever you want to be. And I said to myself, like, you'll make this the best thing that ever happened to you. And then over the years, actually witnessing that, like witnessing how I've been able to turn this into the best thing that's ever happened. Like I say, I'll never go back. If I had that day back again, I would jump it the exact same way, because I would much rather be who I am today than I was the person before, not knowing if that belief was true. Now I've proven it to myself, so I know I can, just trust my own gut.
That would have been a beautiful way to end, but
Would have been a
unfortunately,
good way to end,
but unfortunately, I've got a ball uncomfortable as well, which is a bit off topic compared to that. That's beautiful, by the way.
Yeah.
Really, really nice. Yes. Anonymous on Instagram. I'm sure there's a few people thinking this. You're so out there when it comes to your sexuality and your disability. Would you ever consider starting an OnlyFans?
I got a couple of questions yesterday in my DMs. I have considered it, trust me. After my sister, well, she's on it now and she's very successful on it, I have considered it. I just don't want it to, I feel like, unfortunately, with social media, as much as I love it, whatever you put out there, people will take it and run with it. So if I was to do an OnlyFans, they're going to just make me out to be Christina's doing OnlyFans. And I just don't want people to focus on me for that. So I simply haven't done it just because I don't know. I don't know how to.
Scientific reasons. I just love to know the demand, of, you're very
Well, like Cherie spoke about how many times she gets requested. Like
you're a very good looking person who's in a wheelchair. I just love to know, like, is there an OnlyFans market for that? I'm sure there are probably people with OnlyFans
I know.
with disability.
Googled like paraplegic porn. There's nothing out there. I'm like, man, there's a market. There's a market for me to go in there. And even yesterday, I got a few DM requests offering me money and stuff. And I said to Jess,
if you end up doing it, we take 20% as the
So do you just before we leave it, do you think it's because you want to leave these, like, the answer that you gave for the ball of uncomfortable that I had for you, right? This beautiful moment that we're going to capture, and it's going to be like a really nice quote, and then people are going to take something away from that. Is there a fear that then they're going to go, oh my God, that's a really beautiful piece from Christina and that's given me something. Now I'm going to go check out her boobs.
Oh, but she's only on OnlyFans, yeah.
No, that doesn't bother me.
That doesn't bother you? So it's like,
check out my boobs.
It's not
Give me money.
no, but it's not the difference between allowing people to have this message of who you are and this message. That doesn't bother you. It's just you haven't figured out why.
I just know right now the world doesn't. It's not ready for that. But
it's also like to that point as well. It's like, somebody might take something from that my bowl of uncomfortable question for you, but someone might also take, how great it is for you to be so body confident and might be in a similar position to you that you can start an OnlyFans, and that's what they take from it.
And that's why I keep it as open as possible on Instagram. Like, I had a news article written up on me on my story yesterday about how inspiring and amazing. I was like, oh wow, really proud of myself. And then the next story was how I got in my eye from Jessie.
Okay.
So I was just like, I know people would be watching and be like, wow, she's so inspiring, but then they get the other side.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, you can't control the narrative, can you?
Christina Vithoulkas, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Your YouTube is below in the show notes. Your Instagram is there. Thank you for educating everyone online, and thanks for bringing us hopefully some new perspectives and some content for us.
You're a weapon. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate it.